Hi friends, let's talk about what I read in February. Welcome or welcome back to this video that is a little bit different than what I've previously posted on my channel. I've been reading a lot lately and I figured that I have a lot of other readers that follow me and enjoy talking about books as well, so I thought I would put all of my books from the month of February in one video, and that way if you are a reader and you're interested in hearing about these books, you can watch the rest of this video, and if you aren't, then you can skip it and you can just wait for one of my next knitting and crochet related videos to come out. That's totally fine. So let's talk about all the books that I read in February. I picked up a total of 8 books in February and I managed to finish 7 of them, and I DNF'd 1, which means did not finish. So let's start by talking about that one really quickly and we can get it out of the way. The book that I DNF'd this month is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And the reason that I DNF'd this book is really purely me and not on the book. It tells the story of a girl named Jade who loves slashers. Loves slashers and talks about them all the time. And it seems like some slasher-like activity is happening in the town where Jade lives. Now, I was a little bit leery going into this book to begin with because while I do like some thriller and horror books, I'm pretty particular about it, and I wasn't sure that a book in the slasher genre was really going to be for me, but I've heard really good things about it and I really wanted to give it a try. The thing is that, well, I realized that the slasher genre is really not for me. Jade was a very troubled character. You could tell from pretty much the beginning of the book that Jade has a lot of trauma in their past, and it was sad to watch Jade going through their life. It was kind of, I didn't like the way it made me feel. And I would say that while the book had the potential to be entertaining, and I definitely did want to know what the heck was going on with this slasher activity, it wasn't enough to keep me invested in the book. So I decided to put it down because it's a rather long book to begin with, and I didn't want to put all of that time and effort into it if I knew it just wasn't for me. So if you like slashers, I do recommend giving it a shot, but if you don't like slashers and gore and stuff like that, then maybe skip this one. Okay, now let's jump into the books that I finished in February. The first one is Runaway by Harlan Coben. And this tells the story of a man whose daughter has gone missing and he is trying to figure out what happened. She got involved with someone that was kind of a shady character, and this man thinks that her new lifestyle is kind of involved in why she has disappeared, and he's trying to figure it out. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, and that's because I thought that it was very well written, but it really didn't grip me very much. I wasn't super invested in the story. I didn't find myself really wanting to turn the page and know what was happening next, and unfortunately I found the ending to be a bit of a disappointment. There were a couple of twists along the way. Some of them I saw coming, some of them I didn't, but I felt that the end was a little bit of a cop-out. And I won't say any more about that because I don't want to spoil anything, but it involved a trope that I don't love in my books. And so I thought it was a little bit of a cop-out, and there were actually several books like that this month. So let's talk about the rest of those next. I read 2 books by Alex Michaelides this month, the first of which was The Maidens, which tells the story of a group of young women at Cambridge University who have a secret society of sorts surrounding this professor that they are very enamored with. There is murder and mystery and some type of entanglement with Greek lore, which is really interesting and definitely kept me intrigued throughout the book. However, once again, I felt like the ending of this was a bit of a cop-out. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because I really wasn't a fan of the ending. I didn't like the way that everything wrapped up, and I felt that the book just kind of led up to almost nothing, and it just kind of dropped off at the end and didn't really give us a good conclusion to the story. There was a conclusion, but I didn't like it. And I think that this book kind of led up to nothing after all of the intrigue and suspense that was laid as groundwork throughout the whole book. The second book that I read by Alex Michaelides was The Silent Patient, and this tells the story of a woman who has murdered her husband and has not spoken since, and the therapist that is trying to break through to her. I honestly, almost from the beginning, didn't care about these characters, unfortunately. Surprise, surprise, I also gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. And once again, it is because I thought it was well written, but the ending was, once again, to sound like a broken record, a cop-out. I just read so many suspenseful books this month that I really felt didn't give their all to the ending of the book. I like it when I can reach the end of a suspenseful novel and I can look back and point out all the spots where I missed big clues that were dropped. And none of these books seem to have that. They all kind of took a turn at the end, and I felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, but not in a good way. Not in a surprising, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that way. More like a, oh, what? How does that have anything to do with the story? Kind of way. The next book that I read this month I'm going to talk about very quickly, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I read this for a book club that I'm part of, and to be honest, I had no interest in reading it. I had started it several years ago when the book first came out, and I DNF'd it because I knew it wasn't for me, but I tried it again for my book club, and I finished it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because it is not so poorly written that it deserves 1 star, but it is just not for me, and I know it is for a lot of people and a lot of people love it a lot, so I'm not going to talk about it very much because I am very much not a Sarah J. Maas fan. And moving on. The next book I read is Mrs. Death, Mrs. Death by Selena Godin, and wow, this book was so good. With a caveat. I think I loved this book, but I don't think it's for everyone, and I don't think I could recommend it to everyone. This tells the story of Death, and Death is a woman, and Death is fed up with having to do her job all the time and all the ins and outs of being Death. And she meets someone who is going to help her basically write her memoir. So throughout the story, we are getting Death's memories, we are learning what has her so fed up, we are learning a little bit about this writer that Mrs. Death is telling her story to, we're getting flashbacks, we're getting some present interactions between them. And the writing of this book is spectacular. If you like audiobooks, I actually would highly recommend listening to the audiobook. It is narrated by the author, and that is usually, almost always, not a great thing. But this author nails it. It is written in such a lyrical way that it is just absolutely beautiful to listen to. Now, I would not say that I would recommend this to everyone because I don't think it's not a very exciting book, it's not very action-packed. I think you should go into it wanting a beautiful lyrical piece of fiction, not necessarily for a good story. although I do think the story is good, I think that a lot of people might find it boring and might not walk away feeling as fulfilled as I did from this book. But take a look at the synopsis, see if it intrigues you, and if you think it might be something that is up your alley, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I was blown away and I could not stop listening from like 10 minutes in. No, not even. Almost as soon as this author started reading this story to me, I was absolutely hooked and I could not stop listening. Another absolute favorite of this month is The One by John Marrs. And this tells the story of a world in which a gene has been isolated that can match you with your soulmate. So you can send your DNA into this company and you will just get an email that tells you the most perfect person in the world for you. And wow, what a wild ride this was. This is, although it's based on a science fiction foundation, the book really isn't science fiction. It tells the story of several different people that you get to follow throughout the book and their experiences of finding their match or not finding their match, or finding their match when they are already planning to marry someone else, or finding a match that they didn't think would be a match for them, or hiding very large secrets from their match. So it was full of suspense and a lot of feelings and a lot of mysteries and a lot of intrigue, and every single chapter ended on a cliffhanger, and oh my gosh, I could not stop reading it. It was so good, and I think I will definitely be checking out more of John Marrs' books in the future because I loved this book. I immediately went and checked out the show on Netflix. There is one season of the show on Netflix called The One, and it is so incredibly different from the book. It's not the same whatsoever, but I also very much enjoyed it. I just couldn't get enough of this story and this world, and I highly recommend. If it's not clear already, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The final book I read this month is Tristan Strong Punches the Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mbalia, and this is a middle grade novel. I sometimes like to read middle grade novels because they're light and fun, and I know it's going to be low stakes. This book tells a very interesting story of a boy named Tristan Strong who gets entangled in a world full of West African gods and Black American folklore heroes like John Henry and Brer Rabbit and Anansi the Weaver, the Spider, and it was fascinating. I feel like we don't often get these stories, and it is something that is so lacking in literature, and it was so cool to have these characters brought to life and to learn more about these tales, this lore, learn more about all of the history that is behind all of these stories. And I highly recommend it. Definitely, I think if you have young ones in your life that this book would be more aimed at, I definitely recommend it for them. I mean, I recommend it for everyone, to be honest, and I think I will be continuing with the series. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars just because there were some times where I lost a little bit of interest in the story, but oh my gosh, the ending, the way it all wrapped up, now I really want to read book 2. I wasn't sure if I was going to continue, but based on the ending, I definitely want to continue with this series because it was really, really powerful the way that the book ended, and I know that the next story is going to be really cool. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. I am not used to coming on here and talking about books. That is a skill that I am still developing. I can talk about yarn and knitting all day long, but books, I'm still figuring out how to talk about them. So thank you so much if you've stuck with me for this long. Let me know if you would like to see another video like this for my March wrap up, and let me know if you have read any of these books down below. I would love to chat about them with you. So until next time, take care of you, and I will see you later. Bye!